Welcome back to the front lines. We need to have a very serious conversation about what actually went down in 2020, because the official story has more holes in it than a block of Swiss cheese. They keep telling us it was the most secure election in history, but when you look at the real paper trail, the 32-page receipt Donald Trump just dropped on Truth Social, the math simply isn't mathing. The media wants you to sleep on this. They want you to think questioning the narrative is illegal, but we're going strictly off the facts today. Buckle up. Let's start with the irony of the century in Fulton County. You've got Fani Willis trying to lock up Trump for RICO charges while she's allegedly running her own kickback scheme. It was revealed that she hired her special friend Nathan Wade, paid him over $650,000 in taxpayer money, and then used that bag for Caribbean cruises and luxury vacations. You're telling me a guy with zero RICO experience is the best person for the biggest case in history? It's a hustle, folks. They're cashing out on the prosecution while trying to bankrupt the opposition for asking questions. You can't talk Georgia without talking Ruby Freeman. We all saw the video of the suitcases. We saw the same stack of ballots going through the machine multiple times. It's on tape. Yet in this backwards world, if you point out what your eyes see, you get sued for $150 million. Then Joe Biden gives her a Presidential Citizen's Medal. It's a reward system. If you play the game, you get the fame. If you question the game, you lose everything. They're giving out medals for the hustle instead of the integrity. It's absolutely disgusting. Now look at the ground level numbers in Fulton County. Trump supposedly lost by 11,779 votes. Keep that number in mind. The audit found that Fulton County certified 59,000 in-person votes on Election Day, but the actual logs, the people who actually walked through the door, show only 14,000 people. How do you get 59,000 votes out of 14,000 bodies? That's a gap of 45,000 phantom votes. That is 3 times the margin of victory right there. They are literally manufacturing voters out of thin air while telling you the process is pristine. It gets deeper. The report identifies over 67,000 votes cast by people with invalid residency. These people didn't even live in the zip codes where they voted. In an election decided by 11,000 votes, you have 67,000 people voting from the wrong locations. That one category alone flips the state 5 times over. We're supposed to believe this was clean? When you have more people voting from out of state than the actual margin, that's not an election, it's a selection. Borders don't matter, and residency doesn't matter. Only the count matters to the establishment. Moving on to Wisconsin, they used the pandemic as a cover to strip away every ID requirement. They exploited a rule called Indefinitely Confined. Usually that's for the bedridden. In 2020, suddenly 220,000 people claimed they were too sick to show an ID. That's 250,000 people voting without proving who they are. With a margin of only 20,000, that loophole decided the entire state. You think 250,000 people just happened to get disabled on Election Day? Nah, that was a calculated strategy to flood the system with unverified ballots. Wisconsin also saw some straight-up medical miracles. In 3 major counties, nursing homes reported 100% voter turnout. Think about that. These are facilities where people are incapacitated or in comas, yet 100% of them supposedly voted for Joe Biden. They caught a case of a 104-year-old woman who doesn't recognize her own children, yet a ballot was cast in her name. They were harvesting votes from the most vulnerable elderly, like they were picking apples. It's not just fraud, it's sinister. It's necromancy for the sake of the radical left's power. Now, Pennsylvania is where the math completely breaks down. Their sewer system couldn't reconcile the numbers. The state ended up with 121,000 more votes counted than actual voters who walked into a booth. Let that sink in. 121,000 extra ballots. If 10 people walk into a room, you can't walk out with 12 sandwiches. The margin of victory was only 80,000, so you have a surplus of 121,000 ghost votes washing over a thin margin. The entire state of Pennsylvania is a crime scene based on that statistical impossibility alone. The copier was working overtime. Arizona was the Wild West. Maricopa County accepted 20,500 mail-in ballots after the 7 p.m. deadline. The game was over, the clock hit 0, and they were still stuffing the box. The margin in Arizona was only 10,000 votes. Those illegal late ballots are the ball game right there. And the worst part, they hid this information from public records for 7 months. They waited until the certification was locked in before they admitted they counted illegal votes. That's not an accident. That is a cover-up designed to steal the state's electoral votes. And who signed off on Arizona? Katie Hobbs. She was the Secretary of State running the election while she was running for governor. She refused to recuse herself, oversaw her own count, and then certified herself the winner. It's like a quarterback being the referee at the same time. You call the penalties on the other team and then hand yourself the trophy. And we're supposed to just nod and say, yeah, that looks fair. No chance. It's the ultimate conflict of interest in a system that is rotten from the top down. Finally, Michigan, the home of the infamous 3:30 a.m. ballot dump. A van pulled up to the TCF Center way past the deadline with 50 boxes of ballots, over 60,000 votes. Just like magic, the lead flipped. But it wasn't just the van. Police raided a group called GBI Strategies and found thousands of fraudulent registrations with the same handwriting. They were funded by an $11 million super PAC. This was a professional fraud factory. The police knew it, they raided it, and the media went silent to protect the narrative. So you look at the whole picture: inflated numbers, abused nursing homes, ghost votes, and 3:30 a.m. vans. This wasn't a glitch. It was a coordinated effort across every single swing state. The 32-page report proves the 2020 election was a mess. They can censor the videos and sue the lawyers, but they can't erase the math. The question isn't, did they cheat? The question is, what are we going to do now that we know? This is Political Detox, and we are just getting started. Subscribe to stay defined. See you next time.